Jim DeMint, who is with Heritage Foundation, now he wrote a great article about will the GOP majority ever stand for anything? And this was right after the cave or the passage of the DHS funding bill that included the funding for Executive Amnesty. And DeMint was echoing my thoughts. We keep being told this isn't the hill to die on. We'll fight it next time. We need to pass this one and we'll fight it next time. We need to pass this one and we'll fight it next time. Actually, the DHS funding was the one that we were told was the battle that we would win in January, because we wanted to fight it in November, but the new Senate majority hadn't taken over yet. And they said, we need to just do this stopgap funding in November, and then we'll have the fight on the DHS funding bill in January when we have the majority. Well, that convinced and mollified quite a few people. And it was a mistake for them to try to mollify us with the promise of another battle when they probably knew, as we should have, that they weren't going to win this battle in January either. But still, as much as I knew and predicted that the DHS funding, including Executive Amnesty, was going to happen, I fully believe and expect all of Amnesty to happen over the next 2 years. It's not something that we're going to be able to stop. We may try. We may have some success. Right now, it's sort of being halted theoretically in the courts, and that was kind of a stunning thing. But I have to be realistic, and only expect maybe what's really possible. But it was really nice to see somebody with the intelligence, the awareness, and the knowledge of these people, as much as Jim DeMint has, to be as frustrated and to be expressing it in such a great way. And he did something interesting and also depressing. He compared it to the way Democrats do things. Democrats act like they're the majority when they're in the minority. Our guys act like the minority when we're in the majority. You can compare the way Democrats were able to get Obamacare through when they had just barely a majority. We can't get executive amnesty, which has been barred by the courts. We can't stop the funding on that, even though we are a majority, because Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi still act like they're in charge, and in many ways they are. And it's really depressing and demoralizing. And I don't know how to deal with that other than to just kind of, we all acknowledge it and say, yeah, we helped these guys get a better majority, and it's a majority that's better than it was before, but it still really sucks.
Something else bothered me, and it wasn't just in DeMint's article, and this is at HuffPo, and take that with a pound of salt, because it's HuffPo. But again, I'm not besmirching a source simply because of where it comes from. This is quoted Ted Cruz. The day that this happened, Ted Cruz spoke to reporters. And HuffPo says, unfortunately, leadership's plan was never to win this fight. Since December, the outcome has been baked in the cake. It was abundantly clear to anyone watching that the leadership in both houses intended to capitulate on the fight against amnesty. And it says, he added, it was a strategy doomed to failure. It's an old adage in Washington, never take a hostage you're not prepared to shoot. What bothers me is not what Cruz is saying here. A lot of us sort of suspected those sort of things for a long time. What bothers me is, did anybody see Cruz say that before the vote? Did anybody hear Ted Cruz talking like that ahead of time?
Nope.
I wasn't really listening, but no, I didn't.
Wouldn't you think that our side would have spread that far and wide if it had been written up somewhere?
I think it would have been helpful to call people out in advance. Then it makes them look worse when they do it.
Well, and it makes him look prescient when he's calling the shot before it hits the pocket, right?
Right.
But where either that didn't get reported by the right, which makes no sense to me, or Ted Cruz never said it before that day, which bothers me. I just had to get that off my chest.
It does. It raises some serious questions. Why wouldn't Ted Cruz say it ahead of time? If he is the Tea Party champion that he is, I mean, come on, let's do it. Let's tell it to us straight how bad it is, so that we can do what we can do to change things. Give us a plan here.
But then don't we also try to walk the line of the GOP is the structure that we have to work within. So do we really want to shoot our own generals?
But how many people on the right do take aim and fire at the generals day in and day out?
Yeah, but
And
they're
would
not the
love
ones
to
that are
have,
constructive in helping the movement.
but they would love to have the ammunition that Ted Cruz just put out ahead of the vote. If he had said it beforehand, I believe I would have seen it. And those people would have written it up. The people that are doing unhelpful things.
So by being quiet, was he? And I don't know this. This is the first I'm hearing of what he said, and so I'm just trying to figure it out. Was he trying to play good GOP supportive senator and trying to make things work in spite of what he suspected beforehand, and not being the rabble rouser enemy of the establishment? So was he being responsible beforehand, but then when it passed, he said it to HuffPo to try to burnish his own credentials? I mean, I don't know.
Well, calling people out in advance like that, using public leverage on your own side is certainly not, that's not a button you want to push very often.
No, and he's got the reputation. He's got a crap reputation with those guys anyway.
Right. I got to be honest. In this case, it probably would have been nice, but that's a card you don't want to play often. It really is.
But it's Ted
I
Cruz.
agree.
When has he ever cared about that? I mean, that's the thing. He's in Texas. He's going to get reelected. That's not a problem here. He is profoundly popular, according to what I've been able to glean from the people that I've seen and see posts in Texas. So certain parties excluded, but it's I don't know. I don't see a downside to him saying this before the vote. I don't see it. I don't see it for him.
And I don't want to be the cynic here. I don't. But that bothers me almost as much as the result of the vote. Because if people were prepared for that, if they had an idea that this was coming, and really, I mean, there are a lot of people who suspected, but if they heard it from someone with the authority of Ted Cruz, there might have been an opportunity to get ahead of it. It's troublesome to me. I think the question should be asked. I don't think anybody's asking it.
Well, we just asked it, so there's that. That's better than no one.
And this is something that separates us from the left, because the left always legislates their preferences. If they like something, they want to force everyone to like it. If they don't like something, then everybody can't even speak it. The difference is, we come to you and say, we want you to have the liberty you want.